second Miss South Africa title is Shudufhadzo Musida! It is a new dawn, South Africa.
There's a place just right round the corner, not too far from here. Slowly burning candles everywhere. Don't just say you'd rather stay in, no. 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 Don't just say it's a pageant.
Hi. Good, thanks. How are you?
Hi, Miss South Africa. In October this year, South Africa crowned the new Miss South Africa, Miss South Africa 2020 Shudufhadzo Musida. Of course, she hails from the Limpopo province, and she is the second Miss South Africa to come from that province, and she's from a small village, of course, in Limpopo. And she joins us here today on Newzroom Africa just to give us her story and how it came about that come on that day she was crowned as South Africa's Queen. Thank you so much, Shudu, for joining us here today on Newzroom Africa. You have been Miss South Africa now for at least over a month. If you can just tell us, how has the journey been like? It's been a month. How do you feel?
Thank you so much for having me. It's been absolutely amazing being Miss South Africa for the past month. I think the biggest thing has been like jumping from one interview to the other, and also just trying to figure out what the vision is for this year, because everywhere you go they ask you, so what are your plans, what are your plans? Usually I say it's been less than a month, but now we have to get our ducks in a row. But it's been absolutely amazing being an ambassador of this beautiful country.
If you can just take us back to that moment, did you ever think at any point in time that it would be you sitting right here and we would be saying Shudufhadzo is Miss South Africa 2020?
Nope, not at all. I remember growing up at my grandfather's house. I used to watch Miss South Africa, like watching it. I remember how I would sit. I would cross my legs like on the floor and sit like this, watching all these beautiful ladies on the stage. And I would want to get there one day, but I didn't think it was attainable. And the older I got, I felt like I was too much of an introvert to ever grace a stage like that, where people are going to be asking you questions and you're going to have to answer. Tell us about yourself. What do I say? You know, I used to have stage fright in high school. I'd actually itch and I'd sweat when every single time I had to do a speech. So for me, it felt like, okay, there were too many factors that were saying no. So this would never be attainable for me. I would just like it from afar.
And what gave you that confidence to one day decide that, you know what, anyone can actually achieve a dream like this?
In all honesty, it was last year when Zozi won Miss Universe, when she said, see your face reflected in mine. I did see my face reflected in hers, but then one of my friends, Talisa, she actually put my picture and said Miss South Africa 2020. She did this as soon as Zozi won. She's like, Miss South Africa 2020. I was like, girl, what are you saying? And then I took a screenshot of it. I still have it on my phone. And when she did that, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this out, because my initials are Miss SA. And ever since I was 17, people were telling me to enter Miss South Africa. So when the year started on the 1st of Jan 2020, I usually write down my goals. One of the things that I wrote down was start Miss SA work, enter Miss SA. So those are the two things that I wrote. And then I remember praying about it. And then when the time came for me to enter, I was very nervous, because I was like, whew. This is huge, because now we have to send through videos where everyone can see that you entered. So if you don't make it, people will see that you didn't make it. And then I said, the last thing I said was, what do I have to lose? Little did I know that it would be one of the best experiences of my life. I think the experience that I had with the other finalists has been was just literally the best thing that has ever happened to me, maybe even more than the crown itself. So the experience of having to build sisterhood and build relationships and just see the true nature of a pageant like this, because it was my first pageant, was absolutely amazing.
Now, you recently went home and you went on your welcoming tour. You know, looking at the reception of the people from Limpopo, how has that experience been like for you?
I think when I won Miss South Africa, it still hadn't sunk in. Then you get home and the streets of Limpopo are filled with people. They lined up to see you. When they see you, there's so much love on their faces. Their smiles are so genuine. You just feel like the crown is not only yours. These are the people that supported your journey. These are the people that voted. Then you realize that, okay, this is actually happening because it's so much bigger than me. Even now when I sit here, it's so much bigger than me. It's a representation of dreams being valid, especially in areas like that where there aren't a lot of opportunities, unfortunately. And if you live in a village that doesn't even have a road, what are the chances of you becoming Miss South Africa? But I come from that dusty road, that gravel road. And me winning for them is just, okay, it's possible for me too. So when I got to my village and I saw all those girls, I could see it on their faces. They could see that it was attainable for them. So it was a representation, the crown was a representation of hope. And that's what it felt like for me.
And what does it mean overall for young girls? I know that you've spoken a lot about the young girls from Limpopo and from your village. But what does it mean for young girls throughout this country who look at Miss South Africa and think that, well, it can never happen, not in my lifetime?
It can happen. Sitting has proved that it can happen. I used to say the same thing. I used to say, okay, what are the chances? I live in a small village where basically you can run up the entire village in less than 2 hours. I've never been to Johannesburg. I've never been on a plane. Like, there's so many things. You just think of so many things that are counting against you. But then things change when you start thinking about things that could go right. And that means your dreams being valid. One thing about me was that I'd never stop dreaming. If you know me, you know that I'm the biggest dreamer. I would watch wrestling growing up and think, I am going to be there, I am going to be there. So I've never limited my mind or my dreams to my surroundings. And to those girls that are wondering whether they'll ever be able to be Miss South Africa, it is definitely possible for you, because I come from a village that no one knew until I won. Anything is possible, just really work hard. I think that's one thing I always emphasize, working hard and just making sure that you make your dreams a reality, because it is possible.
And talking about Hamasia, where you come from, that village in Limpopo, if you can just take us back to your childhood. How was your childhood like growing up in that village? You have spoken about how small it was, and that only now that a number of South Africans even know about this village, which you have now put on the map. Just take us through your childhood. How was it growing up in that village?
It was so much fun. It was so much fun. We used to play all the time. So for me, I'd go to school looking forward to coming back home to eat my great-grandmother's food. So you'd find her cooking there. She'll tell us stories, tell us about the latest gossip, and how she's going to discipline 1, 2, 3. Straight after that, you go play with your cousins. Literally, the whole street will come and play, whether it be skipping rope or even just making, you know, those metal cars. Watching my cousins make metal cars, and then we play around with them. Like so many things that I used to do that literally made my life just so joyful. I think when I think back to one of my favorite times is just growing up then, having so much fun with everyone. It was such a free phase of my life.
Something I've picked up on is that the date 18 July is very synonymous with you, and it's very synonymous with this country. It is a day, of course, that the entire world celebrates, and we celebrate the birth of Nelson Mandela, and it's also your birthday.
Yes.
How does it feel sharing a birth date with such a global icon?
Well, for me, growing up, it was always like a huge thing. My aunt used to tell me that I was not born on that day for no reason. So she'd be like, you'd become something big one day, you'd become something really special. And growing up, I'd be like, no, man, like imagine, like look at us, you know. I come from a small village. This birthday is Nelson Mandela's birthday. Who am I? And as I grew older, there were so many things for her that pointed out to me being something in life, like probably in Miss South Africa. And growing up, it was such a privilege and an honor to be born on that day, because it comes with certain, what's the right word? I want to say responsibilities, but certain hope for you becoming great. Because when I won Miss South Africa, Mam Felicia Mabuza Satzel was like, your birthday is by no mistake. I just saw that now, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. So it's always felt like there's a reason I was born on that day. I'm discovering that reason every single day, and I'm honored to be born on the same day as such a great man.
You speak a lot about your aunt, you speak a lot about your grandmother, your great-grandmother. Just tell us about the role in which some of these women, while you were growing up in Limpopo, have played in your life.
My great-grandmother was my best friend. When I was young, my mom tells me that when I'd cry in a group of children, she would know that it was me because she knows my cry. That's how close we were. She was like my favorite person. But she was also the strongest person that I knew because she had only male children and she ruled basically with an iron fist. So she likes discipline, she likes things to be done a certain way, but she just wants everyone to be safe and to be happy. She taught us, or she taught my grandfather and my grandmother and my aunt as well, the values that we have today. She instilled those in us, and my aunt taught me kindness and respect and the value of hard work. I think when it comes to hard work, I look to my aunt. Because she will never tell you to just do something. She will be doing it 10 times better. So even growing up, something as simple as cleaning, waking up and cleaning the house, she will never just tell you to do it. She will do it with you. So she always emphasized the value of school, hard work, and making sure that you work for what you want. And that's the reason I am the person that I am today, because my work ethic, I would believe, that comes from her. My grandmother was... Now that's a strong woman right there. When I think about strength, I think about my grandmother. And she raised us on prayer. She raised us with kindness and respect to know that whoever you meet in life, treat them with kindness and respect, irrespective of their status in life, because you'll never know where they'll be one day. And not even that, just be kind and be respectful. That's literally the bare minimum that you need to do in this life. And those lessons have actually helped me in how I navigate my life and how I build connections as well, because I don't treat anyone differently just because of their status, but I treat everyone with kindness and respect, and I treat myself with kindness and respect. And they have shaped the person that I am, because I think Shudufhadzo, from my great-grandmother, my aunt, my mother, and my grandmother, those 4 women have basically shaped the person that I am and how I present myself to the world.
All right, thank you, Shudu.
Yeah.
Of course, we are in conversation with Miss South Africa 2020. Let's take a short ad break. We'll be back straight after this. We are in conversation with Miss South Africa 2020. And for this part of the segment, she will now begin to tell us more about where this all started. How did her modeling career start, and how did it come about? Shudu, I know that you've spoken a lot, especially in a number of interviews, about how you started your modeling career. If you can just take us back, when did you decide that modeling is something that you want to take up, and this is something that you would like to pursue in the future?
Modeling. I was 17, and there was a girl in our school. She was actually one of the finalists, Jordan, and we were in a hockey team together, and someone told me that she's a model and she models for Mr. Price. I'm like, oh wow, okay, I really want to try that. And then I found out, and then I wanted like extra pocket money, so I was like, okay, why not? And then I went to a modeling agency, and then they signed me. When they signed me, the next day I had a job. But initially modeling was just basically to make extra pocket money and just to say why not. But it was something that something that I learned to enjoy, because you get to be whoever you want to be on set, which is really, really nice. You get to play a different character every single day when you're on set. So yeah, that's my modeling story.
And a number of people don't know this about you, but you were a model, of course, but this was your first beauty pageant ever.
Yeah, ever. I've never done a beauty pageant before in my life. Most of the things that I do actually start with why not. So when I started modeling, it was why not. When I got into pageantry, this is my first pageant, I was saying why not. So I've never done this before. I never thought I could sit or stand in front of people and answer questions and speak about myself. So I was like, I've never done pageantry before, so this is my first one.
You know, something that is usually associated with beauty pageants is that it's very flimsy. It's just all about how you look. And there's always this bad connotation that sometimes society tags on beauty pageants. Why would you say that South Africans should care about a platform of this nature?
I think that's a misconception. Maybe it is like that in some pageants, but not. I don't think it's like that with the Miss South Africa pageant, because it's not just about beauty. They worked so hard to give us workshops on personal development and empowerment in general, that you realize that the last thing that you need to do is just worry about the aesthetics of it without worrying about the mind, without worrying about what you have to offer as a human being. So they work so hard to empower us that even the questions that they ask us in order to decide who's going to be Miss South Africa or whatever, are very much based on us and what we have to offer, what we want to give to the world. So to those people that ask about the relevancy of beauty pageants, I think is very much relevant, because I got to learn so much about myself throughout this process, and I knew that it was not just about how I looked. It was literally about so much more, what I had to offer, my mind, my academics. There's so many things, and if you had to meet the 9 other finalists as well, you get to realize that we're all so different. But if you put us together, we're like an army of empowered women, and they worked so hard to make sure that we know our values and we know who we are before stepping on that stage. So it was never about how do you look. It was about, do you know who you are? Do you know what you stand for? Do you know why you're here? And if you couldn't answer those questions, then it was, like, that was a big thing. But they made sure that all of us knew who we were, our values, before stepping on that stage.
And do you think that it was quite important, especially now, because, the responsibilities that come with this platform is that you are able to influence. Do you think that it was a good thing that this sort of misconception that many people have was sort of washed away by Miss South Africa, by giving all of these courses that build you as a human being?
I think so. I mean, for example, sitting in an interview like this, if it was just solely based on look, we couldn't even be having a conversation, to be honest, because you'd get to ask me about myself, what I stand for, and I wouldn't be able to answer you. So the workshops and the personal development initiatives that they did for us, knowing your why was quite important, does wash away the misconceptions that people have about beauty pageants and the Miss South Africa platform. Because when was it? Just a few days ago, I was in a presidential dialogue. If it was just basically based on looks, then that wouldn't have been possible, because what do I have to offer? So before going into this, before choosing a Miss South Africa, they work on making sure that we know what we have to offer before they do, that we can sit in different spaces and be able to hold our own and be able to represent this country. Because winning Miss South Africa is not just about the glitz and the glam, it's literally about being an ambassador of this country. Literally about being an ambassador of this country, being able to sit and have a responsibility for what you say, So there's a lot of influence that comes with it, but it's a huge responsibility as well.
Now, growing up, you were met with a few obstacles along the way, and one of those being something that a number of young people go through, and it is the issue of bullying. We know that it still takes place. We've also seen a new form of bullying, and that also occurs online. We've seen the online social media platforms where it really thrives. If you can just tell us about your story, looking at the bullying that you went through as a child, just tell us more about that.
The bullying that I went through as a child, it was a huge transition for me, because I moved from the village to the new school. In the village, I was a performer. I was a person that was super bubbly. I was outgoing. Everyone knew my name. I was friends with everyone. I was just basically that person, never scared of anything, just facing things head on. And then you get in this new environment where all of that is stifled, because people think it's okay to bring you down. When I got there, I tried to be myself, but then you find that in the process of trying to fit in, people take advantage of it. And that's the problem with bullying. They don't realize the effects of it, because I went from being this person that was super confident to being a person that was very self-conscious. My self-esteem was very low at the time. And I got to a point where self-love was almost absent because of that. So rebuilding myself, rebuilding that part of myself was like, it took a long time, because when it happened, it started from age 9 to age 14. Those are my formative years. So imagine in those years, people are trying to bring you down. And but then I got to a point where I realized that when people bully you, it's a reflection of who they are. It's not a reflection of you. So when they bully you, they're actually bullying themselves, because it takes them bullying themselves to actually get to a point where they can bully you. When I realized that it was never about me, that it was never about how I looked or how I spoke, because at the time I didn't know a word of English. So I always thought maybe it's how I speak, maybe I've got an accent, maybe it's because I don't know how to speak this language, maybe it's because of this. And even after fixing all of that, it was still not enough. So when I got to a point when I realized that it was never about me, it was honestly never about me. It was a reflection of the person that was bullying me. It was a reflection of the group of people that were bullying me actually, and how they saw themselves. Because one day you could be happy, like Mbali could be so nice to me. The next day, if she's mad, she's going to be mean to me. That is not a reflection of me. That is a reflection of you and your personal situations. So as soon as I realized that, a lot of things changed, because I went on a journey of self-love where I decided to put myself first. I decided to find things to love about myself, not things to hate about myself. Because when you're bullied, you end up taking over from the person that was bullying you, even when they're not there. So I had to stop bullying myself. I had to start seeing those things, the good things in myself. And to people that are being bullied, I think what I tell them is just remember, it's not about you. It's really not about you. It's a reflection of the people that are bullying you. How they treat you, how they mean to you, is how they treat themselves. So the best thing that you can do is just always, it's hard, but never make it personal.
But what did it take? How did you get there to make that self-realization? That I need to get myself out of this. I can't see myself in the way that these bullies see me.
I think one thing that helped me a lot was moving. So I moved from Mpumalanga to Johannesburg. When I got to my new school, I was like, you know what? I would rather not have friends than have friends that treat me the way that I was treated, or have people around me that bully me. So when I got to the new school, I literally would sit in the library and have my lunch there, read magazines, read books. And I told myself I'd rather not have friends. But making that decision was almost like a way of welcoming a new space into my life, where if you're coming into my life and you don't treat me right, I'd rather not have you in my life, you know? So making that decision, in as much as at the time it was a bit extreme, it was a good decision, because the people that came into my life thereafter are people that I still have in my life now, people that treated me with kindness, that treated me with respect. And it was a big decision, because from there on, it took like the little things where I'd look at myself in the mirror, and the things I used to hate my smile. The things that I used to hate about myself, I would look at myself in the mirror and start finding beauty in them again, because all the outside noise and all the bullying and everything, I switched it off. As soon as you switch it off, you start welcoming a new sound where you look at yourself and you just want to woosa, you just want to breathe and like, okay, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am not what they used to call me. And then as soon as the more you silence it, you find yourself empowering yourself, not through anyone else, but through your own being. And the people that come into your life just add on to that. So that was quite an important decision for me, to say, I will not sit, because when you're bullied, you try to actually fit in with the bullies. You try to get them to like you the more they bully you. So as soon as I switched that off, and started saying, you know what, whoever comes into my life will treat me with kindness and respect. If they don't, they're not going to be in my life. I'd literally rather be alone. So making that decision was quite a big thing.
And what would you say to a young person who's still going through this and who's still being bullied? What words do you have for them?
It is not your fault. It's not about how you look. It's not about how you speak, how you walk. It literally has nothing to do with you. Most of the time, you're going to think that it's because of you. You're going to try to change things about yourself, but it's a reflection of who they are. When they bully you, there's a lot of self-hate that needs to go into that for them to even get to that point. So you must practice self-love. You must distance yourself from them. And in as much as it can be difficult, it's okay to seek help. Speak to someone, because I think my biggest thing was when I was being bullied, I didn't want to tell anyone. So speak to someone, speak to your family, speak to your teachers. Don't think it's a you problem. It's a big problem for everyone. So as soon as you start speaking about it, you could be helping yourself and so many other people.
All right, thank you, Shudu. Of course, that is Shudufhadzo Musida. She is Miss South Africa 2020 in conversation with Newzroom Africa. We'll be back straight after this. Shudu, we know that you are an advocate for mental health. Why is this something that you chose as your focus area?
I think mental health is such a big issue facing not just our country, but the world right now. more often than not, when we're trying to fix social ills, we tend to forget the mental health aspect of it. We are dealing with issues of gender-based violence. We are dealing with issues where globally they're war-stricken areas, but then most of the time when there's humanitarian assistance, it's usually focused on the things that we can see, giving food assistance, giving water assistance. And those are things that I've tried. I've tried helping communities with food insecurity projects, water security, but you find that one thing that is very evident is the fact that people are discouraged. The mind is discouraged. People need mental health support, but they're not getting it. 1 in 3 people in this country are expected to suffer from mental health in their lifetime. But unfortunately, 1 in 10 of those people have access to mental health care. And that is not right, because if 1 in 3 people are expected to suffer from mental health, then it's not just a me problem or you problem. It's a societal problem.
Something about mental health is that, especially in Black communities, you grow up a lot where, there's a certain bad connotation that is said about it. It's as if it doesn't really exist, even though a number of people actually go through it. Why is it so important for you to educate various communities about, the seriousness of mental health?
I think when people are suffering from illnesses, whether it be diabetes, cancer, whatever else, you find that since they can see the effects of it, like physical effects of it, it's like, okay, that is an illness. But with mental health, you can't see it. They call it a silent killer for a reason. And in most of those communities, especially Black communities, it's considered a taboo, where more often than not, it's often engaged with to shame, never to rehabilitate. Like, for example, in Venda, they'll say, "Oh, I'm too young." But that's never the case. If you give people the right kind of help, the right treatment, whether it be medication or getting them to see someone, they can also be treated. They can also lead a normal life. But more often than not, people are usually outcasted out of their communities as soon as they're suffering from mental health. So my thing is, or my point in advocating for mental health is to destigmatize mental health and inform how we as a society view mental health.
And during your reign as Miss South Africa, how will you highlight especially the issues around mental health?
I think it starts with something like this. The fact that we are speaking about mental health, engaging with it, not to shame anyone, is a big step. We're engaging with it to inform people, to educate people about mental health. So for me, it starts with speaking to the relevant parties, speaking to SADC, which is a huge group, and huge mental health group in this country, the SA Federation for Mental Health, and getting them as much information as possible and dispersing the information out to society. We're going to be doing a number of things during my reign, a few of them, especially during COVID-19, in order to reach people is through social media. So something called Mindful Mondays. So Mindful Mondays will be, we'll have various guests speaking about mental health in different communities around the country, speaking to the relevant parties, because we had an initiative that we did with Brand South Africa, where I went on live and recorded the entire mental health initiative. And most people were saying, thank you for educating us. Thank you for bringing this topic to light, because more often than not, it's usually held in the dark, where no one wants to speak about it because it's considered a taboo. So during my reign is to destigmatize it and have us having healthy conversations about it, about how to help people, telling people that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to seek help. It does not make you any less of a person.
Now, you also have a number of charity drives which you have done. One of those is another charity in Limpopo. You've done your bit by reaching out to various communities, whether it's through food parcels, whether it's through sanitary towels. If you can just tell us about that, where did that all start for you, and why did you feel the need to help those less fortunate communities?
One thing that I've always wanted to do growing up, ever since the age of 8, was to live a life of service. So I had this dream where I'd build a big haven where women and children could come in and get humanitarian assistance, but also not just that, but also be equipped with skills to be able to take care of themselves. So when I got the opportunity to be able to do that and like to be able to give food and sanitary towels to alleviate period poverty, I took it with both hands, because I know the value of community. My aunt taught me the value of community, where you help your neighbor. So for me, it was important to start back home and just, especially during COVID-19, people have lost jobs, loved ones, livelihoods. People don't have food, and those are basic needs, basic necessities. Even sanitary towels are basic necessities. So it was important for me to mobilize the relevant stakeholders and say, listen, this is my dream, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do in my community. And then I went back home and helped as much as I could.
What are your views when it comes to women empowerment? It's quite a key issue, especially in this country. Do you think that much has been done to emancipate women in our country?
I think a lot has been done. I can't take away from that, but a lot more can still be done. Women empowerment is a very important initiative, or a very important necessity in our society, because I believe once you empower women, you empower a nation. And a lot more can still be done, especially in terms of economic empowerment, making sure there's access to opportunities for women, equality as well. So a lot has been done, but a lot more can still be done.
Right now in our country, especially during this pandemic, COVID-19, we were faced with lockdown regulations. And something that we also noticed was the trend in gender-based violence cases. Just give us your thoughts on the issues around gender-based violence in this country. It is a pandemic on its own, and it continues to increase more so, especially during the lockdown regulations.
Gender-based violence is a pandemic, like you're saying. It's rooted in toxic masculinity, which needs to be dismantled. It is an issue that is facing our society that, if we had to put in as much effort into it as we are putting in to finding a cure for COVID-19, and come together, civil society, government, and civil society structures together, we would be able to do something about it. But I think the most important thing that we can do about gender-based violence has to be within the conversations and the mindsets that are in our society. And these conversations start at the root, and that is with men. The conversations that they have with themselves. It's in honest situations where a woman could be walking past and it's a group of men and one of them objectifies her, right? It's in honest situations like that where men have to speak up. Most of the time we view it as a woman's problem, but it's not a woman's problem. You find that we're spending time and resources to educate women on how not to become victims, when we could actually be educating men on the importance of consent, importance of protecting women, and just getting them a seat at the table where we don't exclude certain parties from the table on conversations about gender-based violence. But it's a huge pandemic that is facing our country, and I believe that it starts at the root. It starts by educating men about consent and the importance of protecting women. I think it's not a woman's problem, it's everyone's problem. And once we get that around our heads and start viewing it as what it is, which is a crime against women, then a lot of change can come about.
What more can be done, especially around gender-based violence? I know that you're saying that we need to educate men more. Should government come to the fore? Should societies or groupings of societies come to the fore? Should we be holding our own in our own communities, take a stand and speak out more? I mean, gender-based violence is something that, before, just like mental illness, is something that you don't speak of. It's behind closed doors. Neighbors would say, well, it's none of our business. What more can be done?
It's about everyone coming together. I think if government had to spearhead, like right now, we're doing the 16 days of violence, no violence against women and children. It should not just be 16 days. It should be 365 days of the year, because I think the stat was every 14 seconds a woman is killed or something like that, or abused. If those, by the way, I'm just paraphrasing, but in terms of those stats, but if it's a daily problem, how is it that we only take 16 days out of the year to say no violence against women? It needs to be a daily or an annual initiative that requires civil structures, government, the communities, families, every single person to come together, because we cannot be protecting perpetrators anymore. We cannot. Because more often than not, we find that we're protecting perpetrators and not making them accountable. I think the biggest thing about gender-based violence is the lack of accountability, where women can go to the police station, and I'm aware that men get abused too, but the majority is women, and then they go to the police station, they get there, they report a case and nothing is done. That leaves them discouraged, knowing that they're not going to get help anyway. But it also, like you're saying, most people say it's none of our business. It's everyone's business. if a woman or a child is being killed every 2 seconds or every other day, then it's everyone's problem, you know. But that requires every single person coming together and holding men and whoever else, or whoever the perpetrators are, accountable. It requires a lot of accountability on all ends.
Shudu, we know that you are not just only this gorgeous lady, you are beauty with brains, and you have studied for your degree in politics, philosophy, and policy. And economics. Looking at that degree, you know, why did you decide to study something like this?
As I mentioned earlier, I've always wanted to build this haven, you know, for women and children, and I thought the best way to equip myself to do that is to study a multidisciplinary degree, which is a triple major in philosophy, politics, and economics. I figured the understanding of the world through politics was really important, philosophy to understand the human, and economics to actually contribute to economic empowerment of women and children. So that's why I studied what I studied, and also my dream has always been to work with or for the UN. So I thought that would be the perfect degree to study in order to get there.
And looking at, you are also currently studying for your honors, I believe. Something that is quite significant is that you've also done research in the past when it comes to the Mozambique 2000 floods, if I'm not mistaken. If you can just tell us more about this. We know that growing up in Venda, you were affected by those floods, and this then subsequently, then it's something you included in your studies.
I wrote a paper on the climate change nexus with food security. So my research was how climate change affects food security. So the inspiration behind my paper, my case study was Mozambique, was because I was living in Venda at the time when the floods happened, and we had to move from the hut to the house that they were building before it was finished because we were never going to survive the floods. So it was a very important topic for me because it did affect a lot of food security in my village, and I know in Mozambique as well. So yeah, I wrote a paper on it just to basically full circle everything.
And something that you're studying right now in your thesis, if you can just give us more information about the thesis in which you've also written.
My research project was on the human security implications of hydropower projects with my focus being on the Grand Inga Dam in the DRC and the Great Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia. So I wanted to see, because the amount of power in the DRC, hydropower in the DRC, could provide electricity to reportedly all Africans. So I wanted to study the implications of building a dam like that, but not only focusing on the good of it, but just making sure that the human security implications are considered when building those dams. So it was just about trying to find out the costs and benefits, who benefits from it, who's not benefiting from it, is the benefit being conferred to the people on the ground. So the local actors, is it only government benefiting? Because if Africa is going to benefit, will the people in the DRC benefit? And with the research that I did, it showed that the people in the DRC will be the least to benefit, with other countries like South Africa actually benefiting more from the realization of Inga 3.
And the reason why I'm asking you all of this is, just looking at the importance of education, especially in a platform like yours. How important would you say, for you being a model, that education is quite important, and for you to encourage more young girls out there to do the same?
I think most people, I get a lot of questions about being a model and everything, but modeling has always been something that I do, not something that I am. Education has been something that is very integral to me. So education is quite important, because with modeling, I did realize that sometimes you're going to get on set and they think, no, this is the only thing that she does, and they treat you with so much disrespect because they think that's all that you have to offer. I don't know, I feel like education empowers a person and gives them access to validate their dreams, access to opportunities for those dreams to become a reality. And I think education is important because it doesn't only empower you, it empowers those around you as well. And yeah, that's what I'll tell to young people out there.
And of course, growing up, a number of us have our own little cheerleaders, which we have in some way and form. Some it can be your family, and some it can be your friends. And I know that you've spoken a lot about your friend as well from high school. If you can just tell us more about where your friendship started and why that friendship is so important to you.
Well, Liddy's my best friend. I met her when I was in grade 9 or grade 10. We were in the same maths class together, and I don't know, like we just clicked. And she's the type of person that actually helped me a lot in regaining my self-confidence, me being out there, because I was very closed off. She encouraged me to even do modeling. She encourages me to do a lot of things. I think it's such an important friendship because sometimes you never realize how people can be sent into your life as a reflection of the love that a higher power has for you. And I think that's what she is. She's a reflection of the love that God has for me, because she's basically my biggest cheerleader. She would she would back me any day. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. Call her, she's there. She's been a rock in my life.
And you've had many rocks. You've spoken about your aunt. You've spoken about your grandmother. And you know, coming to this part, when you wake up every day and every morning, what is that one person that you wake up and you visualize and say, this is the person I want to become one day? Who is your role model?
The person that I want to become. I don't know, like I'm inspired by a lot of women. I think I take so much from them, not that I want to be them, I just take so much from them and would like to achieve as close as possible to what they've achieved, but in my own lane, if that makes sense. So my role models include Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, they include Michelle Obama, they include Beyonce, but they also include the women in and around our country that work hard every single day to make sure that the children have the best of everything with the little that they have. So for me, they remind me of the value of hard work. When it comes to Michelle Obama and Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, they've got this quiet strength about them. They command a room without having to make a lot of noise. And they've achieved a lot in their respective spaces. Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka was the first female deputy president that this country has had. And now she's the head, she's the UN women executive. Michelle Obama as well. In as much as she was the first lady, to many, she was the president of many women around the world. And those women, they have created a path in which most women like me can follow through and look up to and visualize where we want to get to. But they emphasize the importance of building your own, you know. I've been in conversation with Mom P so many times, Dr. Phumzile, and she wants to help me become the best that I can be. Even in as much as she's my role model, she's not trying to make me her. It's about building my dreams, and I tell her what my vision is, and then we see where we can take it, you see. So those women to me are very like integral parts of the women that or the values that I like to hold and how I would like to command a room. Yeah.
Now, we know that the Miss South Africa journey doesn't end here. You've got many more responsibilities along your way. There's also 3 very big pageants that you may enter in the next coming months. Looking at these 3, Miss Supernatural, Miss Supranational, Miss World, Miss Universe, which one do you think is more appealing to you and is one that you feel that you would want to enter in?
I think all of them, because they all have different things to offer. It's literally about just making the right decision. I mean, Miss Universe after Zozi, that is a huge platform for anyone. Miss World is beauty with a purpose, which is something that is something that I already do. Miss Supranational as well. It's a new pageant, but it's a big one. So for me, every single one of them has something that would be beneficial to me, but also beneficial to my message. So we've had Miss South Africa's like Tamron Green, who worked with the UN, and she went to Miss Universe. Zozi works with the UN. She goes to Miss Universe. She's Miss Universe. So it's about making the right decision based on the message that you're trying to bring out. So all of them are very appealing to me. I'm just thinking about which one would be the best one to go to. But once I know, you guys will be the first ones to know.
And just looking at Zozibini, Miss Universe, How has your relationship been with her? I'm sure it was your first time meeting her this year, and someone that you look up to. Just tell us about your first encounter with Miss Universe.
The first time I saw Zozi was in Cape Town. I kept on staring at her and I'm like, oh, she's gonna think I'm so weird. I kept on staring at her because she's got so much presence. Like I'm never, like I meet people and I'm just, not really, I'm unfazed, but like she's got so much presence that you can't help but be drawn to her. So the first time I saw her she was having dinner. No, she came to our dinner table. She was wearing this dress. I think it was it green? But she was wearing this dress. She looked really, really pretty. And then the next day when I saw her, she was wearing this purple suit. And I kept on staring because we were doing a shoot with her for a newspaper. And I kept on staring at her, thinking to myself, this woman has so much presence. I see why she's Miss Universe. She feels like it. And thereafter, she's just been an amazing person to every single one of the finalists. Having been in our shoes before, she's been like an older sister. I remember when I won, she sent me a message saying if I need anything, she's there for me. And having that in someone like her was huge.
And what about Zozi has encouraged you on your journey? I know that a number of people have spotted the short hair. We know that Zozi was the first in South Africa to win the pageant with short hair, and you are the first to win Miss South Africa with bold hair. So what about Zozi or Miss Universe has encouraged you on your path and your journey?
I don't know, like, sometimes I wonder if she realizes what she did for so many young girls, and including myself as well, when she said, see your face reflected in mine. I think for me, not entering Miss South Africa before is because I've never been a person with like long hair, and when I do, I don't know how to manage it. So I always go back to short hair because I'm lazy when it comes to hair. I'm really lazy. So for me, it was like, you can never be in a competition like that because you can barely manage long hair. You try it with braids, but then you don't like sitting for hours doing your braids. In as much as I love braids, I just do not have the patience. So like the easiest and like laziest hairstyle for me is this one. So I was like, okay, with me, I would never be able to enter a competition like that one because I don't look like any of the girls on that stage. And then I saw someone that looked like me. I was like, oh, okay, so I can also enter a competition like this. I'm like, oh, okay. So the importance of representation is everything, and Zozi was that for so many young people. She was a representative of so many of us, where we saw literally our faces reflected in hers, and that gave me the courage to say, okay, I can enter a competition like this, and now I'm sitting as Miss South Africa.
You're now Miss South Africa. What can South Africans expect for the next year during your reign?
Work. Work. I think I'm a big believer in hard work, and I want to cement myself in South African history or the Miss South Africa history as a person that worked to make sure that her message touched as many lives as she could, even if it's just one life. I believe that that's a legacy. The impact that you make in people's lives is the legacy that you leave behind. Making sure that the message of mental health is at the forefront of many conversations, making sure that it's not a taboo. Mental health is destigmatized, even if it's not in all communities, but in most communities, and making sure that this message is taken globally, So for me personally, I just want to be remembered as a person that was a good ambassador for her country.
And lastly, what is your message to young girls who at this moment look up to you and they see themselves in you?
Your dreams are valid. I know that I say that a lot, but growing up, I had someone told me my dreams are valid at age 8. I don't know where I'd be, My dreams are valid, your dreams are valid. Dream as big as you want to dream. You don't know what the world has to offer you. Dream as big as you want to be, and you'll be able to achieve it. Your dreams are valid. That's my message to so many young people out there.
All right. Thank you so much to you, Shudufhadzo. It's been really an inspiration to sit here and to listen to you and listen to your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, of course, that is Miss South Africa 2020, Shudufhadzo Musida. And of course, she says that you can expect a lot more of work from her coming into the new year. And of course, there are those 3 pageants that we are expecting to see her face on, either one or more. It's all up to her. But of course, I know that South Africa will continue to support her on her journey.